Hello there, this is John V, Software Evangelist at Jscape, and you're watching a Jscape AnyClient tutorial. In today's video, I'll show you how to use SFTP on AnyClient. In addition to SFTP, AnyClient also supports other file transfer protocols like FTP, FTPS, WebDAV, and many others. AnyClient is a platform-independent file transfer client that has installers for Windows, Mac OS X, and Linux. In this tutorial, I'll just go through the Windows installation. But once the application is installed, the user interface you'll see on Windows will be the same user interface you'll see on the other operating systems. Let's now go ahead and download our AnyClient installer. Because I'm using a 64-bit Windows system, let's just download the installer for that platform. Once you've downloaded and launched the appropriate installer, you'll be faced with the AnyClient setup wizard. Click the next button and follow the instructions shown thereafter. As soon as you complete the installation, leave the Run AnyClient checkbox checked and click the Finish button to automatically launch AnyClient. Being an SFTP client, AnyClient is capable of transferring files over an encrypted channel. That means it's suitable for uploading and downloading files that require high levels of confidentiality. And like other SFTP clients, AnyClient also supports the use of SFTP Key Authentication, also known as Public Key Authentication. In the next few seconds, we'll show you how to use AnyClient to connect to an SFTP server, upload and download files, and log in via Public Key Authentication. Ready? Let's proceed. First, let's connect to our SFTP server. Once you've launched AnyClient, you'll be brought to the following screen. Click the Connect or Sync button. The first thing you'll need to do is set up a site. A site holds the necessary information you need to connect to your SFTP server. To do that, click the New button. This will create a new item under the node labeled Site Manager. Next, rename that newly created item. I simply entered SFTP, but you might want to use something more descriptive like SFTP server of company so-and-so. Expand the protocol drop-down list and select SFTP/SSH. Notice that there are other file transfer protocols on that list. That should give you an idea what other file transfer servers AnyClient can connect to. Enter the host name or IP address of the server you're connecting to. Enter the username of the account you'll be using to access the SFTP server. Note that you'll need to have an existing account on the SFTP server before you can connect. After that, enter the username's corresponding password. Once you're done entering the basic information, you may click the Connect button to see if you can actually connect. If everything's good, I suggest you click the Save button to save all the information you just entered. This will allow you to easily access the same service using the same user account in the future. The first time you connect to the server, you'll be shown this dialog, which contains the fingerprint of the SFTP server's public key. The fingerprint uniquely identifies the SFTP server. Of course, the public key also uniquely identifies the server, but it's usually very long. That's why its corresponding fingerprint is normally shown in its place. Confirm with your SFTP server administrator whether this is indeed the fingerprint of your SFTP server before proceeding with the connection. If you just click Accept, this dialog will reappear each time you connect. To prevent that from happening, click Accept and Save. Once you do that, your client will save the relevant information, which includes the IP address or host name and the corresponding fingerprint. The client will then use this information to verify the identity of the server every time it connects. If the server submits a fingerprint that doesn't match what was previously saved, the dialog will again reappear. Now this could mean one of three things. 1. The public key on the server was changed. 2. The client is connecting to a different server found in the same cluster as the one it previously connected to. Like for example, when the two servers are behind the same load balancer and hence are showing the same IP to the client, but have different public keys. And 3, which is why you need to verify fingerprints, it could also mean that the client is being subjected to a man-in-the-middle attack. To be secure, it's therefore important to check with the server's administrator if the dialog reappears even if you've been connecting to the same server ever since. It's now time to get into the meat of this tutorial. Let's now discuss how to upload and download files. Before we proceed with that, allow me to orient you first with the user interface. That panel on the left represents your local file system. There you'll see the files and folders on your laptop or desktop. That panel on the right, on the other hand, contains all the files and folders on your SFTP server. Depending on the SFTP server, the files and folders you'll see on the right might be limited to those where you have access rights for. Navigation is very similar to most graphical file managers. You just double-click a folder to navigate into it. To upload a file, just do the following. 1. Navigate into the folder that contains the file you want to upload and then select the file by clicking it. 2. Navigate into the remote folder where you want to upload the file. And 3. Click the right pointing arrow below the local panel to upload. Or you can simply double-click the file. If everything goes well, you should then see your newly uploaded file in the remote panel. The download process is similar to that. You can use the same hotkeys as your operating systems for selecting multiple files. AnyClient supports several other functions like the same functions can likewise be found in the remote system. When we connected to the SFTP server earlier, we only used password authentication. One of the major advantages of SFTP over FTP and other less secure file transfer protocols is its ability to provide two-factor authentication. SFTP provides two-factor through what is known as public key authentication. It's a process that allows the server to authenticate the user based on something the user has, specifically the user's private key. When used in conjunction with password-based authentication, which authenticates the client based on something the user knows, the server can authenticate with a much higher degree of certainty. If you're not familiar with two-factor authentication and public key authentication, feel free to click the links below. In order to log in via two-factor authentication, navigate to the Options tab and then do the following. First, check both User Password Authentication and Use Public Key Authentication. Second, browse and select the user's private key. Third, enter the private key's password or passphrase. And 4, click the Connect button. That's it! Now you know how to use an SFTP client that runs on Windows